Following the assassination of a prominent democracy leader, opposition parties in Tunisia are uniting and pushing for new elections, and the opposition groups are blaming the ruling Ennahda Party's supporters for the murder.
Adding to this political turmoil, our reporter Henry Ridgwell says there is a growing feeling that little progress is being made in tackling Tunisia's urgent economic problems. Henry talked with me from our London bureau. Let's start with part of his report from Tunisia.
Friday prayers at the Al Zaytuna Mosque in Tunis. For centuries, this site has been a centre for Islamic scholarship. Tunisia's mosques are at the heart of a debate over the extent of extreme religion in society. Opposition groups blame Islamic extremists for the February the 6th killing of party leader Chokri Belaid. Organisations known as the Leagues for the Protection of the Revolution are accused of carrying out an agenda of religious violence, attacking art galleries and harassing women who refuse to wear Islamic dress.
Henry, this resurgence of political unrest in Tunisia, are we on the brink of another revolution?
I think revolution is too strong a word for it. I think what we're seeing in Tunisia right now is the rumblings, the trials and tribulations of a political democracy really in its infancy. And the Tunisians who took to the streets 2 years ago to rid themselves of the dictator, President Ben Ali, are discovering just how difficult it is to create that democracy, to create political freedoms, and to create the strong institutions that a democracy requires. Having said that, the government is in crisis, of course, after the killing of opposition leader Chokri Belaid. As we know, the Prime Minister resigned earlier this week, having failed to form a government of technocrats as he wanted.
Now, you spent time in Tunisia. Your reporting was filed from there. How visible is this political instability in day-to-day life?
Day-to-day life, it's not so visible. It's not like it was in 2011 when protesters were on the streets almost 24 hours a day, and that pressure slowly built up over the course of about 4 weeks and led to the ousting of dictator Ben Ali. This time, people are going about their everyday life. Businesses are open as usual. On a normal weekday in Tunis, the capital, and other cities, you wouldn't know there was a political crisis. It's only at the weekends normally, or often after Friday prayers in the mosques, that people really start to take to the streets to express their feelings over the political situation in Tunisia.
And what kind of lessons are we learning from Tunisia? Tunisia has been looked upon as this symbol of Arab democracy, as it was the first country to tip in the Arab Spring. So what lessons are we learning from what the country is going through now?
I think the lessons that Tunisians see and the rest of the Arab world sees is just how long a road it is from dictatorship to democracy. There was, of course, elation across the Arab world when Tunisia managed to rid itself of former President Ben Ali, who had been in power since 1987. And, of course, that sparked the protests across the Arab world in Libya, in Egypt, in Syria and beyond. And 2 years after the revolution in Tunisia, they're struggling to establish the institutions, they're struggling to agree on the constitution, they're struggling to agree on everyday elements of life, such as the fundamental role of women in society, certain aspects like that. And these things are going to have to be debated and fought over the course of many years.
What struck you the most from your conversations with Tunisians?
I think mostly having travelled across the Arab world and covered many of the stories of the Arab Spring, it's quite how open really the Tunisians are and how willing they are to discuss their political situation, their economic situation, and to be frank, how friendly they are really. In other Arab countries, there's been a lot of nervousness, I think historically, because they haven't had a free press, because historically you would get into a lot of trouble if you talked ill of the government, and in particular if you spoke to journalists and particularly foreign journalists as well. And so it is an openness that isn't seen so much still in other Arab countries, and we talk of lessons that can be taken from Tunisia. And for those who support democracy in the Middle East and North Africa, I think that's probably one of the more hopeful lessons that can be taken, that this embracing of democracy, embracing of freedoms, and particularly embracing of the free press and and welcoming of a journalist like Voice of America.
And again, that was Henry Ridgwell reporting for VOA out of our London bureau.